I know. I know. I'm like 2 months late with this. Life is a constant barrage of appointments and disappointments, believe me. I get it. But I'm back today to talk about Harman's second generation color film Phoenix 2, available now in both 35mm and 120 formats. In this video, I want to play around with this new stock and see how it stacks up against other color films on the market and, of course, compare it to the original Phoenix, the Mark I that we all remember, fondly or otherwise. When the original dropped, Harman called it experimental. They said that they refined the formula based on user feedback. And yeah, it felt experimental. It had a bold look, strong contrast, heavy halation, noticeable grain. It wasn't the sharpest. It didn't offer much flexibility, and scanning it, especially the 35mm version, was a bit of a nightmare. That scanning issue got somewhat better when they released the 120 version about 6 months later, but still, it was a film with a very specific vibe. Now, with Phoenix 2, Harman says they've made some major improvements, including smoother contrast and finer grain, a more accurate color palette, better highlight retention and shadow detail, improved lab scanning compatibility, and more exposure latitude overall. I want to offer full transparency whenever I make a video on this channel. Some YouTubers and film photography YouTubers in general like to shoot everything first and then record their intro. Not me. Not old Joshy. I picked up my rolls yesterday and I wanted to hop on here first and say, this is exciting. The release felt a bit under the radar, probably because of the mixed response to Phoenix 1, but this is still such a cool moment to be a part of. We're watching a film stock evolve in real time, and I hope that that idea isn't lost on people. So look, here's the plan. I'm loading the 35mm roll into my Ricoh XR2 and the 120 roll I'm going to be putting in my Bronica SQAI. My girlfriend Harley and I are heading to Maryland this week, so I'm going to try to get some shots while I'm down there. And with that, let's pass it off to future Josh.
That looks really sexual.
It feels sexual too. I'm getting some sort of satisfaction out of this. Cool. That one more. Don't put it away yet. Yeah. Nice. There it is. There they both are. All right, I'm back in the city, and as you just saw, I just finished shooting the 35mm and 120 version of Harman Phoenix 2. Here are my takeaways. Phoenix 2 is still quite a contrasty film, but I found that it has noticeably more flexibility than the first version, especially in 35mm. With Phoenix 1, you almost felt boxed in by the contrast, but Phoenix 2 feels like it gives you more room to work with while still keeping that saturated, punchy look. In terms of color, Phoenix 2 also feels a little more true to life. That said, my results vary depending on the format. My 35mm scans came back looking more contrasty and saturated, while the 120 scans leaned the other way, less contrast, more subtle saturation. So there's definitely some format to format variance happening. One of the biggest differences compared to Phoenix 1 is the overall color cast. Phoenix 1 had that strong orangey, almost sepia-like cast that I think turned a lot of people off, but Phoenix 2 does a much better job correcting for that, although I actually found it to be a little bit cooler than I had expected. So where Phoenix 1 leans too warm, Phoenix 2 sometimes leans a little cool, but at least it feels more neutral overall. Halation is another area where improvements are really clear. Phoenix 1 was known for those really strong halation effects, which, can be cool in a creative way, but it also felt a little bit distracting. Phoenix 2 tones that way down. I mean, it's still there, but not nearly as aggressive, and I think that makes it a little bit more usable across different genres of photography. Grain and sharpness were always big sticking points with the original Phoenix. In 120, Phoenix 1 wasn't terrible, but in 35mm, the grain was really strong and harsh, and the film never seemed to resolve fine detail very well. Phoenix 2, by comparison, looks sharper in 35mm, and the grain feels a little more restrained, which is always a welcome improvement. Dynamic range is also improved. In my photos, I found that highlights held detail surprisingly well, and the shadows had more information than I was expecting. One of my favorite YouTubers and photographers out there, Kyle McDougall, actually did a really solid exposure test with Phoenix 2, and his results backed up what I was seeing. With Phoenix 1, underexposure was basically a no-go because it just fell apart. But Phoenix 2, on the other hand, can actually handle about 2 stops of underexposure, which is a dramatic difference. Overexposure still pushes things too far, with saturation dropping and highlights washing out, but overall, Phoenix 2 feels much more forgiving than Phoenix 1 ever was. At the end of the day, Phoenix is still far from perfect, but Phoenix 2 feels like a real step forward. It's less of a wild experiment and more of a usable, interesting film stock. And Harman has made it very clear that they're committed to pushing this even further. They've even said that they have an ambitious roadmap of color film projects in the works, backed by significant investment in their people and their factories. So while Phoenix 2 isn't the final form, it definitely feels like a sign of good things to come. All in all, I had an absolute joy shooting Harman Phoenix 2, and, whereas with the first Phoenix, I wasn't really too sure how much I was going to be playing with it in the future. But Phoenix 2, on the other hand, I could actually see myself picking up because the price is right and because the photos come out looking interesting, but not in a completely, totally experimental way. So definitely, if you haven't already, I recommend shooting Phoenix 2 and offering your feedback to Harman. I know that they're very interested in hearing what people have to say about this film so that they can refine it even more. But if you have shot Phoenix 2, what do you guys think of it? Do you think that this is a major improvement over Phoenix 1? What are you looking forward to in version 3 of Harman Phoenix? Let me know down in the comments. That's going to do it for me on this video. Thank you to everyone who has been sticking with this channel and watching my videos as they come out a little bit more sporadically these days. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified when new videos come out on the channel. You can go pick up a print of mine by going to darkroom.com. I'll put a link in the description. You can check that out. You can follow me on Instagram and go check out my website to see more of my photography. And with that, I'll see you all next time.